Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do a Cattleya Orchid. Now, a word of warning people, I've only got one of my followers that is making suggestions, so come on, the rest of you, come up with some ideas. I'm always looking for something new to do, and especially something to challenge me as well. Cattleya Orchid doesn't really challenge me because I have done it before. There are certain flowers, like the last video that I did, the ranunculus, that I hadn't done before. And that's mainly because the same person asked me to do that because she struggled with it. So I hope that helped with those that do have problems with it. So anyway, let's get on with the video. I'll take you down to my board. Right, so now if you've got the set, that's fine. I could only find the throat cutter for this one. It's a little bit out of shape and I've had to repair it, but that doesn't really matter because once you get the flower together, you're not going to be able to tell anyway. So this is a Cattleya Orchid. As opposed to the Cymbidium Orchid, it's got more curves on it. So you've got an extra curve. On the Cymbidium Orchid, you've only got one. And one of the petals is a very wide petal, so what I've done is I've got a cutter here that I had made to do a Miltonia Orchid, which has got a wide petal. I am going to do that one in the near future as well. I'm going to do a video with that one. They're all very colourful orchids. Cattleya Orchids have a hell of a lot of different colours in them, so it's better to look them up. I've picked 3 of them that I'm going to colour, but I'm just going to show you how to make the parts to make one. And then you need a side petal which is narrower. Sorry, I've got the wrong one there. And this is a side petal from a Cymbidium Orchid, the narrower petal. So because I wanted a vast difference between the 2 petals, that's why I've gone for this one. So I'm just going to put those to one side for the time being. And this is the column. Now, all orchids have a column, a throat, and the other 5 petals. With some orchids, like the last one that I did, the Zygopetalum Orchid, they are flat, like things like Phalaenopsis and what else have we got? Vanda Orchid and things like that. They don't have an upright larger column like this. The Cymbidium Orchid has a smaller column than the Cattleya Orchid, so that's what you need to be careful of, because the actual column actually goes down inside the throat. You don't see that much of it, but you do need to have something to attach the throat to, which I've already got some already made here where I've attached them. As you can see, if you look down inside there, I don't know whether you can see this, the column is actually down inside there. Right, so I'm just going to pop that to one side for a minute, and I'm going to start off by making the column first of all. So I'm going to get myself some white paste. Now I've done white for all of the columns for all of the orchids because of the way that they're coloured. Some of the petals I have used colours for some of the petals, depending on what it is. Now I've already got some wires already cut here. I'm using 26 gauge wires for everything here because they're all going to be taped together. So I'm going to start off with a small ball of paste, about the size of a Marifat pea, and then I'm going to roll that into a cone like you would if you were a rose, but you're going to use it upside down with the fat part at the top and the narrow part at the bottom. Get your wire. Don't forget, if your paste is not sticky, don't forget to put some glue on your paste. If you're using this vegan paste that I've got here, which is on my recipe, you'll find that on my website, it's quite sticky, so you don't need any glue on it. So between your first 2 fingers, roll down the back. Now I'm just going to have a look at the size of my paste at the side of one I've already done. Yeah, that'll be alright. It's about the same size. Right, so the next thing to do is get your small bowl tool. If you've got a set of 3 of these metal ones, these come in handy. So I'm going to use the large end of the small tool. If you rest it against your finger and then just push the ball tool inside the top there. It doesn't matter if you squash the bottom bit, because we're going to redo that afterwards. And then with your finger and your thumb, get in on one side and just pull it out. So you want to make like an ear. Quite a lot of the orchids have this sort of shape of column. The difference between the orchids will depend on the type of orchid and what the size of it, but the main structure is very similar. So just get that as you want it. And then I'm going to lay it back on my finger, and then I'm going to go back in with the ball tool just to hollow that out again. Like that. So you've got your two ears here, so just bring those forward like that. It's a bit, if you think about a cobra's head, it's a bit like a cobra's head. So just think about the snake, and you're getting somewhere close to it. Then I want some more white paste. Now this time I only want a tiny little bit, and when I mean tiny, I mean tiny. In fact, I could probably actually cut that in half. So I'm going to get my little small palette knife here, and I'm just going to cut that in half. This is somebody that said to some of my students that went to one of the shows with me, about when he was talking about small, she says, well, if he says small or tiny, cut it in half. So we're really tiny, because you've got to think about this. You don't want to overpower the top part of it. Just get that out of the way. So I'm just going to pop that down on my board. You probably can't see that. I can just about see it. Get rid of that bit. If I get my glue, wherever I've put that, I was reckoning to get everything ready before I started again, and I've done the same thing as I usually do. I've got some glue there, and put things somewhere else. Don't get all the glue off your brush. You don't want a lot on your brush. These little bottles with the brushing come in handy because you can refill them. And then just dab a little bit of glue just on the top there, like that. And if you just pick that little piece of paste up on the top like that, and just get rid of my glue out of the way because I don't want to knock that over. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the ball tool back to the top of the column like that. Then if you get your side of your palette knife and just put a line down the centre of that. I've gone a little bit offside, so I'm just going to take that off, and I'm going to do that again. Just take your time with these things, don't try and rush it. So get that back onto there, onto the top of the hit head, like that. Now I did all my other columns, I did this first time, so because I'm demonstrating, this is when things go wrong. Like I said before, I don't cut it out. So try and get that in the centre and push down into the centre, like that. So you've got like a little line across the top. It's sort of got like a little V piece into the top. Quite a lot of like these orchids, like Cymbidiums and Cattleyas and that type of thing, all have this sort of effect going on. It's not on all orchids that, but on these particular types of orchids where they have a throat that goes round the column, you will find that the column is shaped like that. It's just different sizes in different types of orchids. So I'll stop waffling on now. Right, so I'll just put that to one side so I know which one's dry and which one isn't. That's the dry one. That's the dry one. Right. So I'll start on the throat first of all, because you need to do that and get that to one side. Now I'm going to do this in white for all of the orchids as well, for the reason is the colouring on the throats is different to the sepals and petals and that sort of thing on the different orchids. So we'll get some white out here. Need your paste. I need a little bit of quite fat on my board, like that. Now the veiner I'm going to use is this one. I can't remember what this one was for, what flower it was for, but it's got very distinctive veining in it, and because the veining, particularly on the throat and the, not necessarily on the wider petals, they are very frilly. So you would need something with a quite a strong veining for the throat part of it. If you can manage to get hold of a veiner for this type of orchid, that's fine, but you can do various different things with different veiners. If you get something that's versatile, I've got something in there. I've either picked some colour up from somewhere, so I'll try and do that so I don't pick that up. I think I've got a bit of lilac in there from somewhere. I must have had some on my hand when I cut it out. So if we get that to the side like that, we miss that out, cut that out. Oops, dropped it. Good job I don't need that again, isn't it? So I'm only going to cut one throat out. Take your paste away. And I haven't quite cut through there, so if you just get your cutting wheel in if you haven't quite cut through. Now with the throat petal you don't need to thin all the edges. I do thin the bottom part here for the simple reason that's going to fit onto the column, so I want that to be quite thin, but the top edge we're going to frill, so you don't need to worry so much about that. So I'm just going to do round these side pieces here and thin those. Get rid of that out of the way. Get my veiner. Where have I put it then? Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. You'll be notified when I upload new ones. The more subscribers I've got, the better for me and for you as well, because it means I can continue and do a lot more. So once I've given that a good press in the veiner, with it being a white veiner you probably can't see that. There we are. So this is the petal, the throat petal veined. Get rid of that out of the way. I'm going to turn that round so I've got the top edge towards me, and then I need my silk veining tool. Always make sure you've got the end of your veining tool up in the air away from it, because you don't want to go down into it and make a ridge in there. You want it out of the way. We're only frilling the edge. So I'm going to start from the centre. Now I've rolled the paste reasonably thickly because I want to frill it quite a lot on the edge. So if you think about that, and you get a really, really frilly edge. The white one of this one, the pure white one, which I'm not doing because the one I'm doing has got a purple throat. It's called the bridal orchid, used very commonly in bridal bouquets for people that can afford them, because obviously these sort of orchids are not going to be cheap if you're paying for flowers for a wedding bouquet. But it's called the bridal orchid because it is very frilly and very much in keeping with the tone of a wedding. So I'm going to bring it down on just onto that rounded bit at the top there where I've thinned it down. And you can go back over it and get it as frilly as you want. Just work on it until you get it just as you want. I'm just going in between the columns there because that's part that sometimes gets missed when you're frilling it. So there we've got a nice frilly throat. So the next step then is to attach that to the column. So if you get your glue, and then you're just going to glue down the sides here, down there and down there. You might be as well putting this on your pad so you've got a soft surface to work on when you're doing this. So if you put your column into the centre with the base of the column at the bottom of the petal, and what you're aiming to do now is to bring the sides up to meet in the middle of the column. there, like that. And then you bring the other side up so that that meets in the centre there. All you're wanting it to do is to meet in the centre, and then you can just play around with it and bring it together at the top like that. Then if you get it between your fingers like that and just open out the throat at the top like that. Again, I'm just going to bring that together at the top there. So basically that's what you're aiming for with the throat. So it's together up the back of the column, right up to the top of the column there, and then you can put that to dry then. So that goes into your whatever you're going to store your pieces in, like that, and leave that to dry. Right, so I'm going to get rid of that white paste now. I'm going to go on to a colour, because if I continue with the white, you probably can't see it on the board with it being a light colour. So I'm going to use a colour for this. Now I've done two colours. One of them has got peach side petals, one of them has got yellow, and then I've done I'm doing a white one with a purple throat. So if I use the peach one so you can see the colour, can always make another orchid up if when I'm doing things like this, but I'm only going to do one of each colour. Most of this video will be more down to the colouring part of it. Once I've made all the components, that's the quick part. Right, so I've used a peach colour from Sugar Flare. I think it's just called Peach, is that one? When I find which one I've used. Yes, it is. Just called Peach is that one from Sugar Flare. Whichever manufactured colour that you're using, you just want a peach colour. If you haven't got a peach colour, what you can do is to use yellow and then add a bit of burgundy into it, but be very careful how much burgundy you put in to make your peach, depending on how deep you want it. But that's one way of doing it if you haven't got the colour. Right, so I don't want to go too thin with these petals either, for the simple reason that orchids are quite a fleshy flower. They're not very fine like roses, and particularly with some of the things we're going to do with the wider petals, because they are quite very frilly. Again, like the throat, you don't want it too thin, otherwise it won't frill as much. Either that or it'll be too delicate and it'll break very easily as well. So I'm going to use my trusty ridge rolling pin to make the ridge to put my wires into. Those that have watched a lot of my videos will see me do this many a time. It's a really handy little tool. If you can get hold of one of these, once you get used to get quicker at doing your flowers, then rather than turning your board over and using the groove side and doing one at a time, if you're able to cut things out and work at speed, you can cut a lot more leaves or petals or whatever else it is that you're going to do. Right, so the wide ones, you want two of those. I'm just going to cut one out. I'm just going to do one of each. And then you want the narrow petals. I'm just going to do one of each petal because I'm not going to do anything with these, so I'll just put that cutter back into there because I've not quite got a sharp enough cut on that. Bit better. If you can hear that, that's my cat playing hell because I'm not giving him attention and he's shouting at me. Anybody that's got animals will know what I mean. Pets like attention. Not tea time yet. It lets me know when it's time it wants to be fed, but we're 20 minutes off of his meal time, so he'll have to wait. Right, so again I'm going to use some more 26 gauge wires. I'm using white wires for all these. Anything with pale coloured paste or any kind of petals and that, I always use white wires green wires for leaves. We're not doing any leaves today, so that doesn't matter. So again, you want your wire to go up your collar, your central vein. Don't forget to twist your wire when you're putting it in so that the tape on the wire doesn't come off and tear your paste. Right, and then the same with the narrow petal. Now I am going to use a Cymbidium petal veiner for veining these, because there's no frilliness on the narrow petals, but there is on the wide petals. So you probably won't see much of the veining anyway on the wider petals. So I've got two of the veiners here. So I'm going to, because that has a dip in there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend my wire down so it fits into the veiner easier. That's so that the wire doesn't come out. Give that a good press. So that's the back of the petal. Now, these petals tend to curve back, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start at the top there and gradually work up the petal and curve those a little bit back. Like that. Now when I put it onto my pad here, I've already got bits and pieces, that some of that are already coloured and some that are already dried. I'm going to turn because the petal turns back like that, I'm going to turn it over and put it in upside down like that. Then we go on to the wide petal, and I've got a wide petal veiner here, again a Cymbidium. So I'm just going to bend my wire onto a curve like that and put the petal down into the veiner. Make sure I get that the right way up. That's wrong way, that way. Like that. Now then, my wire is showing a little bit there, but that'll be fine. It's only a demonstration one. And then what you need to do then is get your silk veining tool and start on the very edge, right at the bottom of the petal, again with the point up in the air, and start doing it in sections, going up the petal, up the side. The only reason I put some veining into the petal before I do this is because when you dust your petals, the veining does show up, and you need some kind of veining to go with the rest of your petals. I just find it easier doing it on your fingers like this when you're doing this sort of thing. Your fingers do get a little bit sore if you've got a lot to do, but that's part of the job, isn't it, people? So you can go on to another finger and do it on a different finger. I'm just checking my camera to make sure I'm still in shot, because I do have a habit of going out of shot, and I did get criticised in my last video because I'd gone out, so I do apologise, and I did write an apology for that. I could have gone back and done the video again, but I'd already uploaded it by then, so then it was too late. So what I'm going to do with that petal now, bring my pad over. As you can see here, I've got one here that's dried. I've got it on the very side, so if I take that out, that's going to go into there like that. Just bring that up and then pop that over the side like that. I'm going to bend it back, give it a bit of a curve like that, and pop it into there off the side and leave that to dry. Okay. Right, we'll get rid of all those out of the way. Now we're going to get on to colouring now, and for that I'm going to open my phone up because I've got some pictures here that I took off the internet. onto my phone. So the first one I'm going to do is this one here. I don't know whether you can see it on screen. If I try and raise it up so you can see it, it's yellow with a purple throat. So we'll start on that one. As you can see, there's a bit of colour at the bottom of the column, but the white bit at the top of the column is showing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with the throat and the column first of all. No, I'm not. I'm going to start with the throat because it's already covered into it. You could colour the column if you want to before you assemble it, but it's not necessary because you're only going to see a little bit of it. So the colour that I'm going to use for that is Empress Purple, which is a really deep purple. For those that haven't watched me before, you can find these on Edible Art, A World of Colour. It's edible art, not edible art. It's the three mice, Ed, Abel and Art. Right, that's where the name came from. So I'm just going to put some purple onto here and get the throat. And I'm going to, before I do that, I'm going to put some yellow down into the centre here. There is a bit of yellow, but it's not very obvious. I'll find a brush that's got some yellow on a narrow one. I'm going to put some deep yellow right down in the bottom of the throat before I put the purple in. So you get it right down into the bottom of the throat. If you can see that, where I'm going right down into the bottom. I don't know whether you can see that. Right, so I'll just put that brush to one side. And then we go back to the purple. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start brushing the purple down from the end. Now they do change colour quite a bit as they go down as well, so I'm going to use a combination of colours, a bit more than I normally do when I'm doing the sunflowers, if that makes sense. I know what I mean anyway. I'll just move my camera up a little bit so you can see what I'm doing here. When it gets onto colouring and assembling things and that, if I don't notice that I haven't done that, I can go out of shot, so I do apologise. So I hope you can see what I'm doing now. And you're going to go all the way down practically to the yellow. It will look a bit darker in a bit because I'm going to do the back as well. So I'm just going to go to the back of the petal and I'm going to dust down with the purple on that. I think this paste is still a little bit soft, it hasn't dried properly, although I did it yesterday. We're still at the time of year where there's still moisture in the air, so particularly people that live in countries that where you've got a lot of moisture in the air, give it plenty of time to dry out as well. The veining's showing up a bit more now that you've got the colour on it. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to get another thinner brush and I'm going to get some claret. And I'm going to go down to the base of the purple, and I'm going to brush a little bit of the claret in from where the yellow is up into the purple. If you can see where I'm doing that, if I bring that higher up. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the outside as well. I can't see on this picture whether it has, but I'm just using a bit of artistic license here. So I'm going to fade that down to sort of a light burgundy on the white part. Right, so that's the throat done. So I'm just going to put that to one side, put that back up there. Now the side petals for that one, I've dusted these with a white luster. So, where's my white gone? This one's called Icy White from Edible Art. And these have a bit of a sheen because a lot of orchids are very waxy looking, and if you use luster paste you get that sort of waxy look with your flowers. No matter what kind of flowers you're doing. When I'm doing plain coloured, particularly white flowers, I do tend to dust them with this. So this is the white petal. All the petals are the same, so these, I'm not using any different colours on these, they're just going to be white for this one with the purple throat. So I'll do the front and then just go over the back with a light dusting. That's the wide one, and then the narrow ones. I've already done some of the petals, so I don't need to do them all. That's the back of the petal, and we do the front. It gives the petal a really nice sheen, does this. I mean, there's quite a lot of different whites as well, so it's which one's better for you. Some are not quite as shiny. It depends on how much of a shine you want on your petals. You're going to get a bit of a shine when you steam your flowers when they're all finished anyway. So if I get rid of those colours out of the way for the time being, because I'm going to go on to a different set of colours for the other ones. The yellow I can leave out because I need that. I've got some colours already out for that. So if I get some tape, I can assemble that one. I think I've got some tape here somewhere. No, I haven't got any ready cut. I'll have to cut some, or have I? It's amazing what I've got lying around on my desk. I'm just going to cut that in half. I've got one of my cutters here. I'm going to use half width tape for this. Just be careful with the blades in these if you get one of these, because they are very sharp. They are razor blades. Straighten that out. That's it. And down we go. And that hasn't cut that, so my blade must be getting a bit blunt. I'll just do that again. I have to pull it a bit harder down on my blade to get that to cut. Sometimes I have the tape already cut, so you don't have to watch this, but it's always good for anybody that's just beginning to find out about these tools. Oops. Pull down a bit hard on it there. Where's my tweezers? Or scissors will do. No, it hasn't. Or has it? Yes, it has. Must remember to change my blades on my little gadget there. Let's get that out of the way. So forget the throat and start the tape off just underneath the throat. Make sure I get the sticky side and just turn that over. If you just pull it and just press it between your fingers, you'll find out which is the stickier side of your paste. So I'll get my petals out. Two narrow ones and the two wide ones. Bend your wires down at an angle like that. So put that one in there. You usually have to get 2 or 3 petals in for it to twist properly. You should be able to roll it between your first two fingers. Make sure that you get the curved over side facing down on this particular orchid. Some of them curve upwards. It depends on what kind of orchid you're doing, but you do have differences between all the different ones. And pull your wires down to make sure that your wires are right down to the tape. That stops them from moving around once you've got everything together. And then the third petal, that's going to go in the middle like that. And I'm doing these the same as I did do with a lot of orchids. I start off with the narrow petals first and then put the wide petals in. Because the way the flower opens, the wide petals are on the inside, so you need to ensure that, like when you're doing a lily, the narrow petals are on the outside, the wide petals are on the inside. And I'm just going to tape down with that now. Just pull that wire down, make sure that's tight in. When I find which wire that is, there we are. The sticky side, turn that over and start your tape off again underneath your petals like that. Now this is where you can adjust your petals now to make sure they're in the right position. So basically you've got like a triangle of petals. And then if you get your wide petals, again bend your wires down. And then you pop that in between, down over the top of the narrow petals, in between the white ones, the narrow ones rather. Don't want talking about calling them white ones, they're all white, aren't they? Sometimes I should listen to myself. Pop that in. Get your tape going. Like that, and then make sure you pull your wires down to make sure those are nice and tight in. Get them in position and then tape down. If your petals move around, you can adjust them once you've got everything taped in. And then you can bring your petals up and you can play around with your orchid to get it just as you want it to be. Bring those petals up a little bit like that. So that's the first orchid, which is the purple with the white side petals. So we'll just pop that up there, out of the way, and then we'll go on to colouring other petals. So the next one I'm going to do is the peachy coloured one. So just get back into my pictures and show you what we're aiming for there. It does look a bit pinky in the pen in the centre there, but you can play around with your colour as much as you want to get the colour. I don't know whether you can see that or not. Hang on, back again there. Bring that in a bit bigger so you can see it. So the way that I'm going to colour, we don't always get them exact, but we'll try our best to get them as near as. Right, so I'm just going to move this paper out of the way. I've got a different one with the colours on there for that one. Just get rid of that one. So these are colours that I'm going to use for this one here, the peach and the orange. So I'm just going to get as much colour as I can off my brush before I do this, and then I'm using here, the two colours that I'm using are Pale Apricot from Edible Art, which is that colour, very pale, like a fleshy, deep fleshy colour is this one. That's what you're aiming for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to brush down the centre here with this on the narrow petal, and then same on the back. You can cover a little bit more on the back with that if you wish. And then I'm going to go into the Tangerine. I can't read the colour on that one because they get a bit warm when they've been used in a long time. Yeah, it's called Tangerine, is that one? I thought it was. Oops. So it's like, if you think about the colours of the fruits and things like that, this is where the colours come from. It's the colour of a tangerine skin, so they're a bit obvious really. So if you think about it, when you're looking at other colours, that's what you're looking for. So we'll get some of that out, and then what I'm going to do then is I'm going to dust in from the edge into the centre. Sometimes with it being frilly, you just get your brush sideways to get into those little crannies there. And then if I go on to the other side and do the same down there. That's when you're dusting frilly things. It's easy to miss little bits out where it goes in like that. So if you just get your brush the other way around, just to do those little bits there. A bit at the bottom. And then I'm going to bring it down from the top now. It's a bit deeper on the very end of the petals on the wide one. Like that. Bring it down. And then if you just get your brush off and then just go back into your tangerine and then just go over the centre again with that, just to blend that in where you've done the orange. Then I'll just go on to the back, and then if you just use your brush just to pull a little bit of colour in from the back. I don't know what the backs of these are like because unfortunately in the pictures you can't see the backs, but it's just to finish it off, just to make it look finished while I'm doing that. Right, so that's the wide petals. And then with the narrow ones, I'm just going to brush all over with the tangerine. Now if you wanted to, go down the edge of these with a little bit of burgundy. In fact, I might do that actually. Just makes them look more interesting then. just a, you generally find the backs of most petals and leaves and that are all a lighter colour anyway, so you don't have to go too heavy on the back. And have I got a burgundy brush there? We've got a burgundy brush. I'm going to use a bit of burgundy there, so where's my claret gone? There. Just going to use a little bit of this claret. Just on the very edges, just to make that a little bit darker. I'll do the same on the other two because I didn't do that on those. That wants a bit more tangerine on there. Then a bit of burgundy on the edge. Makes all the difference if you get all these sort of like shadowy effects on petals. It brings them to life. I know I said it earlier, but I'm going to remind you again. Don't forget, if there's anything you want to see me do, leave a message in the comments below, and I'll try my best to do whatever you want to see. Right, so I need to get back to the throat now. This is slightly different to... Right, so this is a very pale peach right on the very edge, so I'm just gonna... Now this is a trick you can use. If you haven't got a lot of brushes, just get some either icing sugar or corn flour on your board like that, and just work your brush in it to bring the colour out. You see how the colour's coming out in that? I want to get rid of the most of the orange out of this because I'm going to go back into the peach again. Then you go on to your kitchen roll to get rid of that. So I can go back into the peach now. And I'm just going to catch the very edges of the petals with this. This is where these orchids are really fascinating. The colour combinations are unbelievable. Unfortunately, it's not an orchid I've got because I have quite a lot of orchids. Because in the last one, the Xylopetalum, I did actually show you the orchid that I have that was in flower. Unfortunately, I haven't got any Cattleya orchids, so I can't show you those. So I'm just going to go around the back and just pull it down a little bit on the back. Like that. So that's the edge done. Get rid of that. And I want my yellow brush. Have I got one out? Yes, I have there. That's yellow. So I'm going to use the very light yellow that I've got here. The lightest yellow I've got is called Honeysuckle, which is really light yellow, almost like a deep creamy colour. So I'm going to use that to do down into the throat here, and I'm going to dust that up and bring it up to meet the peach colour. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the back. So that's the throat done. Pop that down there for a minute. Get rid of that burgundy, we don't need that. Oops. I don't want any of that on my orchid either. My claret. Let's see if I can find a longer piece of tape. There we are. And start the tape off underneath the throat. That's the sticky side. The other side. If you get in with your nail and just nip that in like that, it should stay in. And I've got the wrong side. Thought I'd turned it over, but obviously not. You can start a little bit lower down and get your tape going like that. Bring it down and then push it up underneath whatever you're doing. Then there's less risk of breaking anything off then. So I'm going to start by putting the 3 petals in. Now that one's curved up quite a lot, so I'm going to use that as the middle petal. You get your petals started first of all, and if you tape down in between, don't be frightened of using a bit of tape. You can get your petals to stay where you want them to stay. Then make sure they're nice and tight in. Bring those out and back like that, and then put the 3rd petal in. Pop that down for a minute while I get my tape opened out. Got a bit screwed up there. This is the trouble with it being sticky. It sticks to itself. So sometimes you just have to check you've got it all nicely opened out again. There we are. Back to normal. Start that off again underneath those petals and put your 3rd petal in. And tape down. Make sure that that's nice and tight in. You don't have to go right down to the bottom every time. You just get it far enough down so that it keeps your petals in position. That's fine. Bring your tape back up again. Get those positioned. And then put in your frilly petals. Where are they? Here we are. Pull that down. Then put your 2nd one in. And tape down. Sorry to keep everybody watching my videos, but I had to do different colours just to show you some of the variety. There's loads of different colours, so it's a matter of you finding out what you do. So if you put them into the search engine, you can find groups where they do photograph things. So that's the orange one. just put that in there. And the last one is the yellow one. So I've got some of the petals already coloured here. Just got 2 to do. So what I've got done here is I've got some of the honeysuckle here, and then I've mixed some of the honeysuckle here with some sunflower to make it sort of not as dark as the sunflower, but a bit darker than the centre part. So I'm going to start off with these, dusting down the centre, a bit like the peachy coloured one. Oh, I'm doing wrong colour. We want the pale colour, don't we? Some of that. Nearly did it wrong there. And then I'm going to go do the same thing on the back. I've already coloured these yellow. I've used melon to colour these from Sugar Flare. So that's that, and then I'm going to go on to the deeper colour then, this one here. So we've got a mixture of the honeysuckle and a bit of the sunflower mixed together to make a deeper colour. And then if we go onto the very edge of the petals and pull that in, like I did with the peach one. I'm not pulling it so far down at the top there, just round the edges on that, just to give a bit of definition. And then, what did I do on the narrow ones? The narrow ones I've just gone all over with the mixture of yellows there. Because I'm doing the throats for the first time, I will have to go into my picture again to have a look at that to see how that one went. Right, the yellow one has also got a purpley coloured throat, so it's got purple on the edges with a bit of burgundy down below. A bit similar to the purple centre I did on the white one. So we'll get the throat for that one. That's this one. That's just slipped, so I'm just going to readjust that a bit now that it's firming up. The one that I did earlier on. There we are. So Empress Purple is there. I'm just going to pop that down there. I don't want to get any other colour on it if I can avoid it. Get my purple brush. I have lots of different brushes, but not everybody's got the luxury of having loads of brushes like me. I've collected them over the years. So again, I'm going to start off with the centre, top edges, pulling the purple down. I love doing things like this because this is where you get to experiment with colours when you're doing this kind of thing. There is some very fine detail in the bottom, and if you want to do that, that's fine. But as I've always said before, I'm not that good at painting, so I tend not to try and attempt to do things like that. Because if it's not going to look right, I'm not going to do it. Right, so we've got that down there. I'm just bringing that a little bit further down, then I can go over that with the burgundy. And then on the back, do the same. And then I'm going to go into the burgundy. Or claret is the colour that I'm using here. But it is one of the burgundy colours anyway, but there's quite a few different burgundies in this range, so you get a good choice of different ones here. So I'm just going to go pull that down at the bottom there and pull it up into the purple. So it blends in together. You don't want a line between it, you want a blurred edge. And then down into the bottom here with the burgundy. And again bring it up into the purple. If you can see that. Right, so I'm just going to get a wet wipe out and wipe my hands before I put this together, because I don't want to get the darker colours on my yellows. Always come in handy to have loads of baby wipes ready for jobs like this. If you can't get to the sink to wash your hands, these come in handy to get rid of excess colour off your hands. Right, so I'll just pop those over there. I'll have to get some more tape off the roll. As I said earlier on, for sake of repeating myself, please come up with some new ideas for something that you'd like to see me do. I've got a few things that I want to do, but I want to know what you want me to do. So come back and give me some ideas. If I can't do it, I can't do it, but I will try. Anything you're struggling with or anything like that, I mean, I might have already done a video on some of the things, but if there is something that you're having difficulty with, don't be frightened of sending me messages and letting me know. I'll try and answer any questions that I can. Right, so we'll start that. Right, so that one has got the curl up on it, so I'm going to use those on both sides because I've got two of those that are like that. Always try, if you've got two petals that are the same or one that's different from the others, use that as your third petal if you've got one, or side petals if you've got two of them. If that makes sense. It made sense to me when I said it anyway, but if you think about it, I'm sure you'll get what I mean. Come on, turn. My fingers must be getting tired after doing 3 flowers. So it's not behaving. Pull those down. Put the third one in and then we're on the way. I'm just going to come back up with my tape because I've gone a bit too far down. There we are, it's better. I know what I'm doing, you can't see what's happening behind there, but I can. Pull all your petals down, make sure they're all nice and tight in. And then we can tape down with that. Make sure they stay put. There we are, stop that there, come back up and start again directly underneath that. I'm hoping everybody's I've still got your attention while I'm watching this, because I have put quite a lot of different things in. So bend your wide petals down, and again, like before, they go in between the narrow ones. This is why I use half width tape, because it can get a bit thick underneath here if your tape is too wide. So that's why we use, I mean, some people use quarter width tape as well. If you can work with quarter width tape, that's even better. But I'm using with half width tape for the majority of people. Will be able to work with that. So pull those petals in, make sure those are nice and tight, and tape down. Right, so once I've got those in, I can just adjust the petals to get them just where I want them to be. Like that. So there we have the yellow one. So I'm just going to get rid of all these, and then I'm going to bring the other orchids down so we can put them all together and you can see the finished effect. So get my tops on these and put these away. My little caddy here. Oh, there it is. That's the right top. No, that's the one. No, I've put the wrong lid on one. Just be careful with your lids, make sure you put the right colour. I'll put a yellow one on the white powder there. So just be careful of that. It's my cat again playing pot with me. She's not getting attention, and it's tea time. So I'll just get rid of that. Get rid of this powder off of here. Just cover that over with a bit of kitchen roll before I put my flowers down, so you can see what they look like. So you've got all the different orchids here. So we've got the peach one, we've got the yellow and purple one, and then the white and purple one. So if I just get those up there like that, so you can see all the three colours that I've done. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe again, and any comments, leave them below, and hit the like button. And I hope to see you in the next video, and I'm looking forward to some new ideas from all of you people. So I'm just going to bend these up so you can see them just before I switch that off. Like that. There we are. So those are the orchids there. So take care, stay safe, and see you soon.